Welcome to my channel, Military Comebacks. Tonight, I'm sharing a story that will make your heart tremble, a story of courage, sacrifice, and one tragic mistake that changed everything forever. It began in the silent shadows of Afghanistan, where the desert wind carried dust and danger through the night. There was no moon, no stars, only darkness pierced by distant gunfire. Her name was Lieutenant Sarah Hale, though no one in the village knew who she truly was. To them, she was simply a medica gentlewoman who treated sick children and carried bandages in her worn backpack, and never suspected that behind her calm blue eyes was one of the most skilled Navy SEALs in the world. Sarah had been deployed on a classified rescue mission. A squad of American soldiers had vanished after an ambush near the mountains. Intelligence was scarce, the terrain brutal, and the enemy merciless. Still, Sarah volunteered without hesitation. She always did. Her team called her the Shadow, because she moved like the wind, silent, unseen, unstoppable. As they prepared to move out, the commander looked at her carefully. "Hale, you sure you want to take point?"
Suicide.
Out there, she gave a faint smile. "If someone has to go first, it should be me." The helicopter blades thundered as they lifted off, dust swallowing the landing zone in a cloud of grit and noise. Sarah checked her rifle one last time, kissed the small silver cross around her neck, and whispered a quiet prayer. Hours later, deep in the mountains, the radio crackled. "Echo 1, do you copy? We've got Movement 5 heat signatures ahead." Team froze. Sarah raised her hand for silence. They crouched low, hearts pounding together. Through her scope, she studied the figures. Something felt wrong. They weren't carrying weapons. Their movements were slow, uneven. They're civilians, she whispered. 2 men, a woman, and kids. "Hold fire," the commander hesitated. "You sure? We can't risk it." She repeated firmly. They waited as the civilians passed. Relief washed over them too soon. Sudden flash erupted from the ridge above. The explosion slammed into the mountainside. The enemy had been watching the entire time. Ambush.
Take
Cover. Gunfire poured down from every direction. Sarah dove behind a rock and returned fire with deadly precision. The mountain erupted into chaos, sand, smoke, and blood. One of her teammates, Jackson, fell screaming. "Medic. We need a medic." Sarah crawled through the smoke, dragging him into cover. His chest was bleeding heavily. She pressed her hands against the wound, her gloves turning crimson. "Stay with me, Jackson," she pleaded. His eyes flickered. They knew. They knew we were coming. His voice faded. She gently closed his eyes. For a brief moment, everything went still. Gunfire, the shouting, even the wind. All she could hear was her heartbeat. Then came the sound that would haunt her forever. Single gunshot. Instinct took over. She turned and fired twice. The sniper dropped instantly. But when she looked beyond him, her world collapsed. A boyno, older than 13, lay beside a rifle, pale, motionless, her breath caught. The rifle slipped from her hands. She had pulled the trigger. She had ended a child's life. Her team gathered around her in silence. No one spoke. They had all seen it. Something inside her shattered that night. Back at base, she sat alone. The commander approached quietly. "It wasn't your fault. He was armed." "He was a child," she replied, her eyes fixed on the floor. "You made the call any of us would have." But she didn't believe him. The next morning, she requested to remain behind in the village. The commander argued, but she stood firm. "Let me help them. Maybe that's how I make peace." And so she stayed. Months passed. She became a ghost within the war zone, treating the sick, protecting families, disappearing into the darkness whenever danger crept near. The villagers knew her only as Dr. Sarah. They never knew about the scar she carried inside. Then one night, violence returned. Mercenaries stormed, the village armed, drunk, and merciless. They were searching for someone they were searching for. Her, they had learned the truth. She wasn't just a medic. She was the SEAL who had once killed their leader. Sarah stood alone in the dusty street, rifle resting at her side. Villagers scattered in terror. One mercenary stepped forward, smirking. So this is the angel who kills like a devil. Her eyes were steady, cold. Leave them out of this. He laughed and raised his weapon toward a little girl hiding behind a wall. That was his final mistake. Sarah moved in one fluid motion. A single shot cracked through the night. He fell before pulling the trigger. The others fired wildly, but they couldn't see her. She flowed through shadows, across rooftops, between walls, everywhere at once. When the gunfire ended, silence returned. The mercenaries lay defeated. Flames flickered behind her, lighting the village in orange and ash. The villagers stepped out slowly, staring in awe. An old man approached her. "Who are you?" he whispered. She looked toward the breaking dawn. "No one," she said softly. Weeks later, an American helicopter arrived. The commander stepped out, relief and sorrow in his eyes. "You did it again, Hale? You saved them." He handed her a letter. "You've been recommended for the Silver Star." She stared at it for a long moment, then tore it in half. "I don't deserve it." When she returned home, there were no parades, no medals, only silence. She bought a small cabin near the woods and lived alone. But at night, she still heard that single gunshot, the one mistake that echoed louder than any battlefield. Years later, a young reporter found her by a river, polishing an old medal she had never accepted. "Ma'am," he asked gently, "you're really a Navy SEAL?" She met his gaze with calm blue eyes that had seen too much. "Once," she said, "but that was a long time ago. Why hide it?" She gave a faint, sorrowful smile, "'Cause legends don't belong in the light. They belong in silence, where mistakes are remembered and souls search for peace." After he left, she watched the sunset ripple across the water. For the first time in years, she whispered a prayer not for forgiveness, but for understanding. That night she hung her old uniform neatly on the wall. Beneath it, she placed a single bullet, the one she had kept all those years, as a reminder that one shot, one moment, can change everything. She turned off the light and stood in the darkness for them. She whispered, "If you believe heroes aren't born but broken, rebuilt, and remembered, like, comment, and subscribe."